So Donald Trump has won the election pretty much, and as a British person who has stayed up watching it all night, I just wanted to give my opinion on just what it means for the UK, basically. So it's a weird one because when he was elected in 2016, obviously you fear the worst because we had a Tory government, but now we have a Labour government. A Labour government which I call the Labour National Socialists because they're incredibly racist. They hate the poor, they hate pensioners, they hate people with disabilities, they hate trans people, they hate universal healthcare. They're pretty right wing, but it's fair to say they probably don't like Donald Trump. But also, a lot of them have also been saying how much they actually kind of like Republicans. So David Lammy is our foreign secretary. He's been saying, palling up with Lindsey Graham, talking about how much he's actually conservative, which he's just the most opportunist person. But I guess I want to talk about that and also the broader effect. Like, what does Trump's election mean for people who aren't American? Because we've talked a lot about foreign policy in this election and everything. So in terms of the UK specifically, I'm finding it hard to see how it plays out. So Labour don't like Trump broadly. Some people in Labour have campaigned for the Democrats, but obviously, biggest economy in the world, have a good relationship with them. So we're gonna have to tolerate him. But unlike with the Tories, where pretty much the US were demanding to the Tories that you let us get into the NHS. Like the US want to get in there and privatise the NHS. I just don't know about that, to be honest, with Starmer. So I think it'll just be like pretty standard US UK relations. I've talked about like Irish unification. Um, I don't know if Trump will have any strong views on that specifically. Brexit's done because that was a big deal last time with the trade deal with America. So honestly, in terms of like UK US relations, specifically with the government, I don't know. One thing I'm worried about. So here you see Nigel Farage, who is friends with Trump. He's the leader of Reform UK, which is the fascist party in the UK. And just this like Trumpian wave, like there's always such a knock-on effect in UK politics of how much shit goes on in America affects us. So, you know, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about the more closer collaboration. I'm worried about, obviously like Elon with Twitter and Trump's money and Trump's support for Farage. I'm worried about the next election where if we don't get our shit together in the UK, we're going to see Trumpian like fascist candidates rising. I mean, the Tory party are pretty much at that point anyway, but even more so like overtly fascist like Farage himself. So I'm really worried about that. But we're going to see how that plays out really, because the UK politics is very different to the US. But yeah, Trump, supporting this guy. I think Nigel Farage might be the Tory leader one day. And I just don't want to live in a world where Trump is president and Farage is in a position of greater power. But the collaboration on Israel will continue. I think the collaboration on Ukraine will continue as well. And I'll talk about that in a sec. Collaboration on most foreign policies like anti-Iranian. Trump at the end of the day, Trump's foreign policy is going to look very similar to Trump's first term foreign policy and also Biden's foreign policy. There's not much to distinguish them. And even, let's talk about the world now. Talk about Ukraine first. I've just been reading stuff recently about the Ukraine situation. Pretty dire at the moment. A lot of, not just America, a lot of countries are kind of losing the desire to keep funding the conflict. It's looking pretty bleak for the Ukrainian military. So they're talking about like ceasefires, negotiations. People think Donald Trump will immediately pull all funding from Ukraine. Don't think that's going to happen. I think Donald Trump's going to stack his administration with neocons again, Mike Pompeo and others who hate Russia. So I can see the funding for Ukraine continuing. If there is negotiations and a ceasefire and permanent ceasefire with Ukraine and Russia, I can see people saying that's all Trump's fault, but if you read about how it's going right now, I think it's pretty clear in 2025 is going to be a big year for that conflict maybe ending, and it would have happened under Biden as well. Trump is erratic. Trump is obviously very corrupt. I can see him just doing shit that his advisors and cabinet don't want him to do. At the same time, Trump lets a lot of people do his policy for him. So in terms of that, collaboration with the UK will continue on the funding of Ukraine. There might be some more pressure to wrap it up. That's what I'm thinking on that. In terms of Israel, obviously Trump is vocally far more pro-Israel than Biden and Harris were. Trump's backers. You've got insane Christian Zionists who like want Armageddon and want Middle Eastern conflict. Lots of people in his administration are going to be really anti-Iran as well. At the same time, although he says all this stuff, is that too different from Biden? So someone has said in my chat tonight that now Trump is president, the West Bank will be annexed by Israel. Obviously a terrible thing. You know, the West Bank is globally recognized as occupied territory. Do I think Israel will try that? Yeah. Also, do I think Biden would have let them annex it as well? 100% Biden or Harris would let Israel annex the West Bank. And they would let them annex northern Gaza as well. And that's a sad thing. And I've talked about this in my videos about Palestine. Palestine is suffering because the whole world has sold them out. And it's led by America, but, you know, all the Arab states, all the Gulf monarchies, all the states that apparently should be defending Palestine, they're letting Israel and America do this, right? Because of global capitalism and how the US influences that. So although Trump, you know, they might feel emboldened to do it even quicker, I fundamentally think at the moment with Netanyahu in power and the chaos of the Israeli government, it would happen anyway. And Biden and Blinken and Harris, they'd let it happen. So, you know, I don't see too much of a deviation on that. Anti-Chinese stuff, I guess, could ramp up. A lot of people in China, they wanted Harris to win just because they know what they're dealing with. You know, but we're just going to have to see, to be honest. Like, it's too unpredictable. So that's what I'll say. Like, I would say largely in terms of foreign policy, in terms of the UK collaboration, it will largely continue as normal. As the US foreign policy often does, especially after the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan at the height of the Bush administration, there is no appetite for that war anymore. And that's just the age of warfare for the US engaging in that. I think it's just kind of dead. You have your proxies with Israel. You have Turkey doing stuff in Syria. You know, there's lots of stuff going on like that. I can't see another massive war involving the US troops, to be honest, but imperialism will continue. Trump was terrible with foreign policy, worse than Obama in many ways. He'll continue to be horrible. In terms of the Gaza stuff, he's just going to let it continue. So there was no win for Palestine tonight. There couldn't have been a win for Palestine tonight because the exact same shit would happen regardless. But in terms of the UK, bad in general, bad for UK politics, the knock-on effect. I hate how much Trump has influenced the culture here. And I'm just sick of talking about him as well. Like, it would have been so nice if tonight we could all move on. Now we have to talk about him for another 4 years. And yeah, like, I'm laughing because it's just so exhausting. And the one thing I'd agree with the Out to Brunch liberals with is I just kind of don't want to think about him anymore. So yeah, that's how Trump will affect global politics in the UK. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And thanks for watching.